Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of my Paul McCartney album rankings. Part 1 I looked at my least favourite McCartney albums from number 26 down to 21. If you want to see that video first, then I will put a link in the description, or you can go to my channel and find that. In this video I'm going to look at positions 20 down to number 16. So off we go. Okay, right, in position number 20 I've got, from 1983, Pipes of Peace. So this was the follow-up to 1982's Tug of War. Let's just have a quick look at the track listing first of all. See if we can get that for you. And finishing with Through Our Love, the rest are bonus tracks there. Okay, now if I'd have been doing this video about 3 or 4 years ago, I probably would have had this album right at the bottom of the pile. I really didn't get this album at all for a long time. When the Archive Collection version came out a few years back, I really gave this album a lot of time and attention, and I've grown to like it a lot more than I used to do. So if you don't know, a lot of the stuff that's from this album came from the same sessions as Tug of War, and you can tell pretty much the best songs from that session were used for Tug of War, and you could call some of these leftovers if you like, but there's some good ones there. What I like about this album is it's quite upbeat. Pretty much all the way through, really. I really like Pipes of Peace, the opening song, and I've got an affection for that because that was the first Paul McCartney song that I knew when I was a child. So that was a #1 record in the UK at a time when I was really starting to get into chart music. So I knew that song at the time and loved it, and that sort of helped me to then get into listening to other Paul McCartney stuff later on. So I'll always have an affection for the title track. Say with Michael Jackson, good pop song, and of course it brought us a bit of a story, the McCartney and Jackson story, that was quite sort of integral to how things have gone over the past few decades for Paul and business-wise. I think I like Average Person. There's a bit, I only picked up on this fairly recently. There's a passage in Average Person. It's where it goes, if you'll forgive my tuning, it goes dur, 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 dur. And I only picked up recently that that's the same phrase that is used before on Tug of War at the end of the song Tug of War, but it's in like an orchestral version where it goes duh, 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 duh. It's that same phrase that is reused on Average Person, so that's clever. He's done that a few times during his career, and I do like that. So yeah, I've gained quite an appreciation for this album over the last few years. It's still down at number 20 in my list, but certainly I do like it a lot more than I used to do. So, next we have at number 19, the follow-up, well, not the follow-up to Pipes of Peace, because we had Broad Street in the middle, but Press to Play from 1986. Let's just show you the track listing there. Now, an important thing for me to say with this album, if I just show you the CD, because this is how I knew the album for sort of 20 odd years before I ever got the vinyl. If you just have a look at the track listing here, you'll see that there's 3 songs after However Absurd. Right Away, It's Not True, Tough on a Tightrope. Sorry. Now, I didn't realise until fairly recently that those 3 were CD-only bonus tracks, and technically the album actually ends with However Absurd. Now, I used to not particularly enjoy this album, and I must admit I don't like those 3 songs at the end. They've never really grabbed me. But when I listen to it now, finishing with However Absurd, I think there's a really good album in there. It's quite tight now. It's very experimental. It's very 80s, and I think it's a very fair argument to say that Paul was experimenting and maybe losing his way a bit. But I like it when Paul experiments, because it's good to see what he can do. So I think there's a lot of fun on this album. It's a good pop opener with Stranglehold. Talk More Talk is just crazy, to be honest, with all the voices that come in, but it's crazy in a fun way. Footprints is a lovely song. I think of that as a kind of a Christmas song, really, just because footprints in the snow, and it gives me sort of a nice sort of Christmassy feeling listening to that song. Press is a good pop song. There's some daft lyrics in it, but it's a good pop song. Angry is silly. but I don't mind it. I quite like the song, but I know it annoys a few people, and I can sort of understand why. So it did lose his way a little bit in the mid-1980s, and that's certainly evidence for the prosecution. But I think it's a good album, and I think we could get a really good archive collection version of this album. There's all sorts of extra things that they could include. There was a lot of 12-inch mixers and B-sides at the time. They might just go a little bit after it and bring in some of the sessions for Return to Pepperland that he did after that. Maybe, I don't know. They might include that. That would be interesting to see. But that's my number 19 album anyway. Number 18. I do feel a little bit harsh putting this down here, but I don't really know where else to put it, to be honest. And this is Electric Arguments. So this was the third Fireman album. I said in my introduction video a couple of videos ago that I was going to include this because I'm not including the other Fireman albums, but I am this one because it's more of a sort of a regular Paul McCartney singing album. And I think this really shows, this is the kind of thing that sets him apart from his contemporaries, really, because the guys who Paul McCartney's competing with, they're not going to come out with an album like this. I just don't think many of them have got it in them or want to do it. But Paul it's just so many different styles in him. So nothing too much just out of sight. When that came out, it sounds like Led Zeppelin. Crazy, but really good. And I think Sing the Changes is one of his great songs of the last sort of 20 odd years. That is a song that would be a highlight of any Paul McCartney album. And there's just a lot of interesting stuff to listen to on this. Sometimes I find that the last sort of 10-15 minutes, I don't want to say it drags a little, but it doesn't quite have the pace and the energy of the earlier part of the album, but it is still good. But I'm putting that down in 18th place for me. But it is a very good album, and one that I'm really glad that we've got. Number 17. Off the Ground. So this is quite an important album for me, because this is when I was really starting to get into Paul McCartney back in the early 90s. Which had started with Flowers in the Dirt. That was my first sort of album of his that I really latched onto, and then this being the follow-up, I was really into this album. So Hope of Deliverance, the opening single from this, that was a really good pop song. Again, let's just have a quick look at the track listing there, if we can get that for you. Come on, you can focus. There you go. Hope of Deliverance, a really good song. Looking for Changes is probably one of the most political songs that he's done in terms of animal rights. Whether you like it or not, that's up to you. I don't mind it at all. I am a big fan of Biker Like an Icon. I don't mind admitting it. I think it's a really good, fun song. I know a lot of people hate it. Fine, but I just really enjoy listening to that song. Golden Earth Girl is lovely. It's a bit of a remake of Warm and Beautiful from Wings at the Speed of Sound, but it sounds really nice. Get Out of My Way was a good sort of just old-fashioned rocker. Wine Dark Open Sea is a lovely song. It's one of the songs that when I was learning to play guitar, it's a real nice one to just play along to and improvise to, and you can little tip for you there, if you are a guitarist, get in the key of E and just do some sort of noodling in the key of E major along to Wine Dark Open Sea. You can have a lot of fun doing that. Come On People was his big sort of grand anthem for the 90s attempt. It's good, it's not amazing, it's no Hey Jude, let's put it like that. And then Cosmically Conscious at the end, which was I'm trying to sort of invoke a bit of a spirit of I think 1968 Beatles, India, all that kind of thing. It's a good album. It's not a fantastic album, but it's certainly got highlights on it. And that's number 17 for me, is Off the Ground. And the last one that I'm going to look at in this video is number 16 from 1999, Run Devil Run. So this was his first real project after Linda passed away. I think it was a really good thing for him to do, to get back into the game and do something that he was familiar with, really, in terms of like these old rock and roll classics. So he'd already done the Russian album, Choba BCCCP. This for me has a lot more energy. I think the performances are better, having the having the likes of Dave Gilmour on board really sort of helps the album in terms of the musicianship. It absolutely rocks, does some of this. The Run Devil Run, the title track, which was a Paul original, it's just a great rocker. Real good version of All Shook Up. No Other Baby on here is a really interesting one. It is 4 minutes and 17 seconds. And a thing that I've always said about No Other Baby is, my quote is, No Other Baby does nothing for 4 minutes and 17 seconds, but it does it magnificently. It's a really beautiful song. It just plods along and it just sort of builds slightly. It never explodes, but it just sort of builds the anticipation, and it's just a beautiful song start to finish. And then yeah, Party at the end is a real good rocker to finish. So I think it was a really important album for Paul to get him back into working and doing something that he could enjoy after Linda's passing. And we got things like Live at the Cavern off the back of this, which was really good things to see. So I do like this album a lot. So that's my number 16. That's all I'm going to do for this video. If there's anything that you particularly agree with or disagree with or want to ask me, then let me know in the comments. Is there any albums that you would have expected to have seen by now, or albums that you really don't like the fact that they're so low down in my list? Let me know, it'd be good to hear from you. And I'll be back in the next video with positions 15 through to 11. Cheers, thanks for watching.